Hello, and welcome to today's episode of The Authentic Physician. I am thrilled to have here with me Dr. Mo. And we were chatting before we came on about all the different things that we love and hate about medicine. So, this is the show for you if you want to hear the contrary views that doctors have on the medical field. Dr. Mo, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm delighted you're here. We came across each other through a mutual resource and realized that we both were trained in lifestyle medicine and obesity medicine. We got there from different specialties. I'm internal medicine, you're emergency medicine. So I'd love if you would just start off by telling us what sucked so bad about the healthcare system that you
So,
left emergency medicine.
how long do you want this to be?
Fair enough.
So, believe it or not, I was not burned out.
Okay.
I even writing this book that I just wrote called Freedom to Shift. I mean, I bled that thing, and writing it really forced me to look because every time, because of course I used AI to write it. Like we went back and forth. I brainstormed with AI because it's like someone that you brainstorm with that doesn't
Yeah.
have a contrary
Right.
opinion, which is super awesome.
Yes. And feelings aren't hurt by what you say.
Yeah, exactly. And so we went through and went back and forth. And every time, like I had to correct, I wasn't burned out. I loved emergency medicine till the day I left. I cried. I have a picture of me walking out the door of my main ER that I worked in overnight for 13 years because it was not my choice to leave that department. I went out to a freestanding, worked there, a couple different freestandings that I worked at for a couple years after that. And of course, the shifts dwindled because it's not wasn't it wasn't my professional home. My professional home is in the ER overnight, level 2 trauma center, knowing the consultants, handling the traumas, doing the things. Loved it.
Yeah.
I didn't know then that it was also harming my health because I thought I was a special snowflake and that working nights would not be a problem for me because I worked out. I did 7 Ironmans.
Yeah.
We raised a child. I kept my marriage intact. We had protected sleep in our house. My husband's also emergency medicine. So when you have a shift, my
Yeah.
mom helped out. We have protected sleep. We did the right things. I worked on my food unsuccessfully,
Yeah.
as it were. But I didn't leave it because now the healthcare system sucking. That's an entirely different topic. But I loved my job. The way I phrase it is that the shoe got too small. It
Mm.
was like and I didn't understand why until I created margin. I didn't even know what that word meant. Like you could tell
Yeah.
me that word and I was like, I know what the definition is. But when I had my upper level boss come in one morning at 6 o'clock, I remember this day very clearly because it was the start of the downfall of my profession. And he came in and I said, I know I could be a better doctor if I just had more bandwidth. And he looked at me and he said, the only way for longevity in emergency medicine is to go part time.
Mm.
And I had known this for 2.5, 3 years at this point. I was already coaching physicians on the side. On the side. I love that. You get it.
There is no on the side.
There is no on the side. We don't do things on the side.
Correct. Come on, level up.
Yeah, dump that right on the fries. This is how we're going. And so I was already doing that. But I said, as soon as I can make something lucrative enough
Mhm.
to decompress the finances,
Yes.
I'm going to go part-time because I knew I could be a better doctor and I wanted to stay. My plan was to stay in that ER 4
Mhm.
to 6 shifts for eternity. My
Okay.
joke was I was going to die in bed 3 running a trauma at 85.
And feel great doing it.
Exactly. Just love it. Little did I know I had an LAD lesion in there. So,
Mm.
um, that was that I learned a year ago.
All right. And for our viewers, explain what that is and why that's a problem.
So that I have a 20% narrowing of an artery that supplies blood to my heart called the widowmaker spot. Not a good term that you want to be diagnosed with.
No. No.
And it was an acute and chronic issue. So it wasn't like, oh, because everyone said your calcium score is elevated because you're an endurance athlete. I'm not that kind of endurance athlete, I hate to tell you. I'm the kind in the back dodging the balloon ladies at the Disney race. Okay. Like this is how I roll. But it was new. It was both old and new.
Okay.
Which meant my behaviors were still contributing.
Even though you'd done all the right things.
I thought my food, I hadn't gotten there yet.
Okay.
I've struggled with food since I was 1 year old. I got taken off of whole milk because I don't have an off switch. Nature, nurture, we can argue
Yeah.
that till the cows come home.
Yeah.
I believe I was born without an off switch. My
Mhm.
first diet on memory I was age 9,
Wow.
and I've yo-yoed ever since.
I'm totally gonna run with that for a second if you're cool going down this rabbit hole,
Yep.
because I think so many women I take care of in our practice, they would say, "I just feel like I'm never satisfied. I'm constantly hungry. Nothing ever gets me where I need to be." And I've been dieting or told to diet for decades, since even before puberty. So, briefly, what does it mean to have an off switch not working?
Well, I never knew.
Yeah.
I never understood what that meant until I had an off switch that worked. So, July 4th, 2022, I did 2 things on the same day. After I told myself I was never gonna hire another business coach because the ROI was crap.
Yes.
Never hiring another one. I'll buy a book, but that's it.
Mm,
I hired a business coach.
of course you did.
Famous last words, right? So I did that day, and that morning, I took my first dose of Mounjaro.
Okay.
And between 6 and 8 hours later, I was I had talked to this business coach in between, not realizing what was happening at the same time physiologically until I look back.
Yes.
And about 2 or 3 in the afternoon, I was like, "Something's very different." Now
Mm,
notice, I didn't lose weight in 6
right.
hours,
No, of course not.
but my brain and that constant ticker tape of what we
Mhm.
now know is food noise.
Yes.
And writing my book, I realized it's not just food noise. It's a ticker tape of criticism, questioning. Should
Yes.
you really be eating this? Do you think you could work harder? You know, you
Oh,
really should be farther in your coaching business. You've been coaching for 30 years, but do you really think you know what you're talking about?
of course you don't, because you're a failure at life, right? That's what our brain tells us. It's
And
brutal.
that stopped.
Amazing.
And literally in one day, I thought to myself, oh, now it took me a year and a half
Yeah.
to get over the morality of that.
Right.
I hid my Manjaro in the fridge for 3 weeks from my husband because I was embarrassed that I had to get help. I can't, I'm just over myself. And then a year and a half later, it dawned on me, if a chemical can get rid of 80 to 90% of my issue, maybe it's a chemical problem.
Maybe the problem isn't you. And I would imagine in your practice, I've seen in my practice here in St. Louis, so many women feel like they are the problem. Uh, I see it in men too, but I tend to have a pretty biased practice shift toward women. And
Yep.
they're just like, what am I doing wrong? I'm doing all the things. Or
Mhm.
I didn't have this problem forever. I've done all the things and now it's not working anymore,
Yeah.
but I didn't change anything. And they feel like a failure and they take that on as an
Mhm.
identity rather than realizing it as a biological problem.
Yes. Yes, we're actually starting another podcast. I have my own podcast and my practice and my other my data dudes, as I like to call them,
Yes.
are starting a podcast called The Biology of Better
Nice.
because it's biology and you can never outwillpower biology.
Never.
I mean, try to will yourself to hold your breath underwater
Right. Right. You're going to get so far and then you're not.
and then you're not.
But that
Your
doesn't,
biology's going to win one way or the other there.
it really does. I remember in medical school, they were teaching us, this must have been first or second year, but they were teaching us about syncope for our listeners. That's when you pass out. And one of the things that the neurologist said, it just stuck with me. He says, the brain will always win. You will either listen to
Mhm.
the brain or it will take you down. And
Literally.
right, literally. And as I think about whether it's weight or hormones or just dealing with all the juggling of the glass balls and making sure none of them are
Mhm.
fracturing, I think it's a reality that so many women, especially 35 to 55, are dealing with because not only do they likely have a full time job, they have that they're paid for, they have their other full time job. And so many of them are juggling, how do I help my parents who may or may not live in the same city I'm in? How do I help my children who may be going to high school or college? How do I do it all? And speak to that woman who's listening right now, who's feeling that,
Mhm.
because I think there's a little bit of your story I'm hearing that that's who you were.
It's funny. I call it a couple different things. I call it overload. I don't call it burnout. I
Yeah.
don't call it overwhelm.
Mhm.
We take on these roles because we like them.
Yes.
We enjoy them. It's not
Uh-huh.
like society makes me feel like I have to. That's what, like, when I was talking about the AI writing the
Yeah.
book, it kept saying society makes no, I'm not keeping up with the Joneses.
Right.
I like to handle everything.
Yes.
And it's a competence trap because when you can, what happens? You do. and
Yes.
you enjoy it. I want to take care of my child. Who wouldn't want to take
Right.
care of their parents?
Right.
Right? So what I would say, and this is actually I coach overloaded high achievers in my group coaching.
Mhm.
I have a physician program and then I've got, but I
Yeah.
expanded it because I'm not a doctor, but I really want you as my coach. I'm like,
Right.
all right.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's why we're
There's a
high
need.
achievers.
Yes. Yes.
But I honestly think that the number one rule you need to understand is you cannot do it all.
Mhm.
And you only ideally, okay, this is
Right.
ideal. I'm not there yet. I'm still a work in progress. I just hired somebody today to help me
Yeah.
because you need to do the things that are in your zone of genius. If you've never
Yes.
read The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, go read it
Great book.
because you can be excellent at something. Emergency medicine, I honestly think, is my zone of competence. I hate to say it, it's
Yeah.
almost embarrassing
Yeah.
because people around me were like, "You were a great doctor." But what I cared about was the teams and the
Mhm.
dynamics and the systems.
Yes.
I loved my patients,
Yes.
but that next level, I thought it was lifestyle medicine was the zone of excellence because I'm very good at GLP-1s, very good at management, very good at lifestyle medicine stuff.
Yes.
And I've done that for a long time. And I was an certified athletic trainer for 26 years, triathlon coach for 10. I'm a certified sports nutritionist. Like lifestyle medicine is like made for me.
Yes.
And but the zone of genius is I joke with people, I can come up with 3 ways for you to monetize your skills and experience without getting another certification by the time we're done having a cup of coffee.
That is your superpower.
And like I can just see that. Like I
Yeah.
can like, no, but what about this? The problem is, so what
Mhm.
does that do? That circles back around to the overload because I'm like, "Oh, I
Yeah.
wanna do all these things."
Uh-huh. Yes.
No, you've got to be disciplined. We're good at discipline. We can handle
Yeah.
this.
Right.
Be disciplined in your own growth for what matters.
So, hypothetical situation. We haven't talked, so our listeners know we haven't talked before this. So, what I'm going to tell her, she has no idea about this. What's resonating with me in what you say is so many female physicians I either know personally or have been in certification programs with feel like no matter how many certifications they get, they still need another one because they're still not there.
Mhm.
And the zones you're talking about resonate with me, but I'm not sure all our listeners know what those mean. So I would, as you answer, I'm hoping you'll just kind of give a broad overview of the zones so they can track with you. But where I'm going with this is overload is very different than uh, losing my words. This is my menopause moment. Forgive me. It's very different than burnout, as you say. Uh, Burnout almost implies a victim mentality,
100%.
whereas if you are overloaded, that can be very intentional.
Mhm.
And your brain is potentially, well, it is getting something good out of that. It feels good, like you said, to do these things. So recognizing that that is a reward to
Mhm.
whatever choices I'm making, right? So if I'm coming to you as a potential client and I'm saying I want my business to grow and I want to be there for my kids and I want to do it all, and I don't buy the idea of life balance, but
Mhm.
I do believe that I can have good intention and be present in both circles. What would you say to me? Am I like wackadoodle, or is that true?
No, I would say, first of all, I agree with you wholeheartedly that work-life balance is crap. It is work-life integration. You are a human who happens to work. Now, I say this on the other side.
Yeah,
Like I said, it took me a year and a half to get over the fact that I was no longer an ER doc in my department.
yeah.
I was no longer I had been there longer than any other doctor there. I was a staple. When I got fired, it destabilized the group.
Wow, wow.
I didn't understand how deep that identity went and how much it stole from my family.
Hmm.
I didn't see it.
Right.
I thought I was doing fine.
Uh-huh.
And so what I would say the zones, right? Competence number 1, we need physicians. When I coach physicians to bring their practice either hybrid or remote or start a remote practice, I don't want to take them out of medicine. My whole goal is to keep them serving populations who need them as long as possible.
Right.
we need doctors. I mean, no
Firm.
one is going to argue that. So when we talk about the zones, there's a zone of competence, the zone of excellence, and then your zone of genius. I mean, you can even hear it. I don't know. I can feel it when I say that. You've got
Yeah.
competence. Yeah, I'm pretty good at this. I
Right.
got this.
Right.
I
I
got
could
the
do it.
airway. We're fine. Everyone's breathing.
Yes.
We're good. And I loved it. I did. I loved it. But I was never innately good at it. It's like I run marathons
Yeah.
and I do triathlon. I'm not innately good at it. It is definitely a zone of competence thing for me. I love it. I love it at the end. I would love to have enough bandwidth and margin to love the training. I'm not quite there again yet. Again, it's seasons, right?
Yes.
Zone of excellence is no, I'm really good at this. I can, if I were to say I'm an expert in lifestyle medicine, I don't know many people out there who would argue, even though I'm not board certified yet.
Yes.
It's coming up. I've just had I have a ton of credibility, not from credentials necessarily, but from experience.
Right.
The zone of genius has the fewest credentials for me. Yes, I'm certified as a life coach because people wanted to see a piece of paper.
Right.
But I've been coaching for over 30 years
Yes.
and I can inspire a rock.
I love it.
I mean, and that's the thing. So when you picture yourself at 75, 80, 85,
Yes.
I don't believe in retirement. I believe in relevance over retirement.
Yes.
You picture yourself at 85. If you could choose, because we're not going to be working 40 hours a week when we're 85.
Correct.
But if you could choose those you have to be selective, 5 hours a week that you are working,
Right.
giving back, creating value, being a lighthouse. What are you doing? For me, that is speaking, that is coaching, that is inspiring.
Yeah. I love that you're going here. And I imagine this is probably true in other professions, but since we're in the profession of medicine, we'll stick here. I have a hard time explaining this to my husband, who's brilliant. He's an attorney, super smart guy. But when he talks about retirement, like that's his goal, right?
Mhm.
And it just flabbergasts me to think about retiring because I'm like, why would I retire? Like, this is who I am. And I think that many women build that into their identity. And the reason I'm bringing this up is there can be a toxicity from that. There can be a place where it hurts you. I agree with you. I want to work till the day I die. Like that sounds fantastic. And I know that every listener was just like, "What?" right? But when you are there where where your calling and your passion is, of course
Mhm.
you want to do that. But I've also observed in my own life. At one point, I was enjoying my work so much that I worked myself into a hospital bed.
Mhm.
And over the years, I've met multiple physicians who've done this.
Mhm.
And I struggle to understand, is it the identity has become toxic to us? Is it the habits of being persistent and showing up and owning and doing and giving have become so addictive to our brain that that dopamine from doing this is just not another option? Or are we missing a third option? Like, where would you go with that?
My gut says it is the reward.
Yeah.
Like you said, like we like feeling competent.
Hmm.
I mean, that's why we're at the head of the bed. We like feeling competent. We
Yeah.
like making order of, I'll just speak for myself.
Yeah.
My brain is chaotic. I joke. My husband has these compartments in his brain. I can compartmentalize, but
Yeah.
the one I'm in is a snow globe.
Yes. And it's beautiful
And
and messy.
it's got, I mean, you know exactly what I'm
I
talking about. You
do.
turn it upside down, you're like, okay.
Uh-huh. Here we go.
And it's funny because I don't like chaos. My emotional state as a child is one of chaos.
Mhm.
So I've spent my life creating order out of chaos
Yeah.
and not actually even remotely effectively until now, which is
Interesting.
bizarre. I'm 52. Like, I really wish this would have happened a bit ago.
Right.
But I think that we will work ourselves silly because number one, you can't ignore the other things.
Correct.
Well, you can,
This
but
yeah,
it's not acceptable to me.
right.
So you're going to have a fulfilling career, a fulfilling home life, a fulfilling workout schedule, vacations,
Yeah.
food on the table. Those are essentially all full-time jobs. You don't have enough.
Right.
There aren't enough hours. And I tell people, what are you going to do with your one precious day?
Mm.
We've heard this before, write your eulogy.
Right.
I'll bring it to today if today is all you have.
Yes.
And I had this moment of, I kind of regret being here. I should probably be hanging out with my kid,
Fair enough.
but
Right.
But it was just that was
Yeah.
my reflex of,
Yeah.
"Oh, what am I doing?"
Right.
Like, again, because again, we hit seasons, and right now I'm in a season where I just launched a book.
Yeah.
It's a high intensity season. Reading the audiobook, getting it out there. I don't but it has to be a season.
Yes. It can't
And
be
I'm not
forever.
very good at not replacing the season with
Mhm.
something else.
And just to dive deeper on that really quickly, the something else, would it be the same intensity or are you thinking lower, higher?
Usually the same.
Uh-huh.
Let me tell you the mistake I made creating my remote practice. This is why I coach
Ooh,
people
it's gonna get
because
good. Let's do it.
I don't want you to make the mistakes that I made.
Yes.
I mean, literally over $400,000 worth of mistakes, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, like, so I've earned this.
Yes.
I mean,
Brag about it. Go.
I opened a freestanding ER in 2011 with 5 friends.
Interesting.
So, yeah, I'm really good at making multi six-figure mistakes.
Very
It's okay.
interesting.
Lessons. We'll call them lessons because then I can teach, right?
Yes. Yes.
Anyhow, so I started my practice and I hired in the complete wrong order because I got overwhelmed. My practice grew very quickly. I replaced my full time income in less than 6 months.
Nice.
So it grew very quickly. Again, when you love what you do, you
Right.
want to do it more.
Yes.
And I was still working full time. My husband was like, "You think you could drop a couple shifts? Like,
Seems
dropping a couple
reasonable.
shifts might be a good idea here."
Right.
And that's when that downfall started. But again, I needed it. I needed it badly. And but I did the same thing. I realized my practice started at 3.5 years ago. In the first 3 years of that practice, I took friends that I knew were great on the ground, always had my back, ride or dies, and hired them because why wouldn't you? They were
Right.
nurse practitioners. They could help me.
Yes.
And I wanted them to do everything on what Dan Martell calls the replacement ladder,
Yes.
which is admin, delivery, marketing, sales, and leadership.
Yes.
I wanted them at the top with me. I was going to give them percentages of my company. I mean,
Yeah.
because again, like you feel, I was so excited. I wanted to bring my friends with me. Look at this big thing we can create.
Right.
It failed.
Okay.
Now, I have never gone in the red. I have never not paid myself. That full time ER salary is my floor. I was
Yeah.
not going to steal from my family to do this. And that's not what I teach my clients to do.
Right.
But if I had just followed now the replacement ladder, buy back your time was not written at this point.
Okay.
And if you haven't read Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time, number one, you're going to read it, you're going to get angry, you're going to be a special snowflake and say, it doesn't apply to me. Okay.
Yes.
I get it. That's why I call us in my book, we are the dangerously overeducated.
Yes.
I have a whole chapter on why you don't need another credential. So, mistakes galore. I paid for hopes and dreams. And then what happens is you get this resentment because the people aren't doing what you're asking.
Right.
They don't even know how to do it because you're the visionary.
Yeah. And
They
maybe
don't
you
know
didn't
how.
get it out of your head the way you thought you did.
Never, never did.
Yeah.
So I lost best friends,
Oh.
like best friends. It's been heartbreaking. I mean, that's worse than the money. You know,
Yeah.
I would pay that money again to get those friends back.
Yeah.
Lessons learned.
Hard lessons. And yet out of that pain, you've learned to share with others in a way that can impact them and hopefully prevent similar mistakes.
That's the goal. Make all new ones.
Yes. Keep learning, keep growing. One of the things that I run into in our practice, we do a lot with hormones and metabolic medicine, and also high achieving women. One of the problems I run into is that most women don't feel that they really truly should prioritize themselves. They feel like they have to do the other things. And so they won't do basics. And the things that are easiest to do are the easiest things that are easy not to do, right? And so this is my struggle often, but I don't think this is unique to high achievers. I think this is a human
Mhm.
thing. And as I watch and I've gotten older and I'm looking at my children growing up and I'm realizing that our brains are going to find the best place for us to rest, but they're not necessarily going to keep us going. And so you talked a little bit about the over desire almost to work all the time. And you talked about getting some rest, but what about the idea of resting in each day versus resting one day a week? How do you put that together in a way that's meaningful and sustainable?
I think it has to be every day. Otherwise, it's not integrated. It has to be. So the things that make up your identity are the things you do every day, right? And when I say every day, if you miss one day every couple of weeks,
Right.
this is not about perfection. But one of the things that I really work to live by is you can miss a day, you can't miss two. Because if you miss two in a row, then it becomes a habit. That's a start. Again, it's you're either spiraling up or you're spiraling down and you don't know the day that happened. Sometimes you do, but
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
lot of us, it's really insidious where, oh, I didn't read my journal or my daily readers this morning.
Yes.
Oh, I'll just pick it up. And then you pick them up. You're like this morning, I just started my daily readers again. And I don't do New Year's resolutions. My birthday's 2 days before. So I work on more global identity goals. Who am I
Okay.
going to be this next year?
Yes.
And I looked this morning, I was like, "Oh, look, it is not January 4th. Guess who hasn't been reading the daily readers?"
Yeah. Oops.
So things like that. But I have intentional movement every day.
Yeah.
I read my goals first thing in the morning. I read them 3 times a day. But I actually built out because again, this has to be on paper, okay?
Yes.
If it's not, it doesn't exist. Show me your calendar, I'll show you your priorities.
Right. Or your checkbook. That'll show it too.
Or your checkbook, right? That too. Amazon is apparently my priority.
Yes, agree. It's also my daughter, so it kind of biases mine, but that's okay. Do you think how do I say this nicely? Do you think that
Let her rip.
people yeah, do you think that higher achievers think more of themselves than they should and are trying to prove to themselves that they're worth thinking of themselves that way?
That's a really good question because I don't the way you phrased it I really like because I don't need to be better than anybody else.
Right.
Even when I run races, I don't go for a place. It's kind of cool if I happen to get somewhere
Yeah.
that's close or whatever, aka not last. But last is fine too. I've been there.
Finishing is good.
Yep, absolutely. So for me it's not a competition. I seem to think though, and I had just talked about this morning because I used to have a triathlon client, an athlete that I used to coach, and it was never good enough for her.
Uh-huh.
But I did find out that I finally asked her, like, what are you comparing yourself to?
Right.
Because if it's not good enough, that means not good enough as, but we're not willing. She's a very high achieving woman, and she was not willing to define that blank.
Got it.
Like, I'm not fast enough. I'm like, fast enough for what?
Right.
Are you going to be an Olympic athlete? Because you're faster than me. You're slower than Usain Bolt. I mean,
Yeah.
like, what are we looking?
Right.
What are we doing?
Right.
But it was never good enough because she was comfortable not being
Yes.
good enough.
Interesting. And so self-sabotage.
Because if you lay off yourself, you won't do the hard things.
Right.
And that we do hard things. I mean, I have a
Yeah.
shirt downstairs that says I do hard things.
Right.
Literally, I'm not getting like I do, but I do hard things. We all do hard things. We got up this morning.
Right.
Hard enough.
Yes. Harder on some days than others.
Right.
So I'm going to use myself as an example again because it's just fun to pick on myself. So I have 5 children, 4 biological. The fifth one is a foster baby. And she unbeknowingly came into my life in August 21st. Probably for 3 years, up until August 20th, I would have been that person who didn't miss a day doing physical activity. Like I had it down twice a day, every day. I'd go for a walk and like that. I knew my stuff. She comes into our life, and I'm suddenly put back in the position of every new mom with a 2-month-old at that time of, do I sleep? Do I shower? Do I have sex? Do I eat? What do I do? Right? Because like she's only gonna be asleep for a short time, and I prioritize it. Everybody's gone through their transitions. So it doesn't have to be after having a kid.
Mhm.
But I wonder for our higher achievers, I've noticed in myself that I criticize myself. Like, how can you not get back? You were doing it for 3 years. You know what to do, right?
Mhm.
So why are you not getting back in that rhythm? And why are you justifying I need to sleep instead? And yes, sleep is good, but do we really need to always sleep as much as we might want to versus have to? I think that's not an uncommon transition experience. I'm using that example of having a young child in the home, but a new job, taking a parent on, kid going to college, graduations, weddings, there's always going to be something.
Right.
And when you flump out of something that's been working for you, a new rhythm has to be created.
Mhm.
And walk us through what is the best way to do that when you don't know what the rhythm you need is, but you know something needs to be different.
It's funny because you talk about movement, but when you said that, I pictured my last day. It was the end of January, and when I walked out of the ER,
Okay.
because I knew my life was changing, and I was completely destabilized. And I like the word destabilized because, again, it's like you're just off your axis. You don't have any idea. And like I said, it took me way too long to figure it out. If I would have been coachable, I know. If I would have been coachable, it would have happened in 3 months. Instead, it took me a year and a half because I muddled through and I asked. But as far as something even as simple as exercise, because there are core behaviors. I call them the 3Ds of what we do in my Elevate coaching program. They're daily non-negotiables. And it's living a 3D life, right? It's living a full
Mhm.
dimensional life. And they're very simple for a reason. It's in the morning, you sit down with your calendar and you look at your goals in your day, just today and tomorrow.
Yep.
That's it. Just today and tomorrow. You have intentional movement for 45 minutes. Do I do 45 minutes every day? No. But I do have intentional movement every day. The goal is 45. Most days I hit 45.
Yeah.
And then at night, this is the kicker. While you're going to bed, if you're in my group, we go through this visualization exercise that is about touching and feeling and seeing and smelling a scenario. If you've ever read The One Thing by Gary Keller,
Great book.
of the one scene that if you did this,
Yes.
it would help the dominoes fall. So those are the three things my clients do. And the funny thing is, my vision has been, I still fight with the guilt
Yeah.
because it's a money vision. But you're like, "Well, shouldn't your kids come first?" This is my brain.
Yeah.
Shouldn't your kids come first? What about your marriage? What about your health? Shouldn't your
Ugh.
health come first? But when I'm not worried about money, everything else gets better. So that's my domino. And it sounds dumb because it's the last thing. I help people get health, time, and income freedom. It's the last, but it's not.
Right.
It's a Venn diagram. It's all at the same
Yep.
time.
I think that's an important insight because at least in our practice, what we see so often is women come in and they'll tell me I'm too busy. I can't do this. I can't do that because I'm too busy. They won't argue with me that they should. But what I find
Mhm.
that they find frustrating is they don't know how in a busy lifestyle to say no. And you used the word margin earlier. I've used the word buffer,
Yeah.
creating space as basically what it is, either way, right? It's identifying and to take the time to understand what you even have that you value right now. What is it that you want? Is it your kids? Is it the money? Is it the house? Whatever. And then to know how does that impact how are your actions impacting you toward that and how are you prioritizing. I firmly believe that most ambitious working women do not have a problem with time management, that
Mm-mm.
their problem is priority management.
Yep.
And I imagine in your coaching you probably help women learn how to prioritize better. So as we're closing, why don't you tell us a little bit about your program if someone's interested, how they could get involved, and anything else you want to share on your work.
Yep. Fastest way to get information on everything that I do is at Shift with Dr. Mo. It's DRMOE.com. That has my medical practice, Elevate coaching, which is my group coaching, and then my high level physician blueprint. And that's essentially a done for you system where we plunk out your practice, enjoy. And then I work on the identity shift throughout those 6 months because
Yes.
otherwise you're not gonna do it.
Yes.
And like you said, it's we don't need another planner. Everybody comes in thinking we need another planner, we need another time hack, we need
Right.
another diet. Just tell me
Yep.
what to eat.
Yeah.
I can tell you, but you're not gonna do it.
Correct.
That's and I know, believe me, I did it for decades. No, I just need a better planner. Do you know how many planners I've thrown in the garbage?
Yes. I imagine it's close to what we've done. We probably should have a collection of planners, right?
Even journals. I
Yes.
actually threw out all my journals. Be like, "Oh, you threw out your journals?" Yes.
And
Yes,
it felt so
because
good.
it did, because I was no longer tethered to the, "Oh, this one's half done."
Yes.
It's a, "Oh, look." Like today, I have a meeting coming up in 10 minutes, and I say this because these are the things I tell my clients. I have a
Yeah.
meeting coming up in 10 minutes, and I've actually gotta take my kids somewhere halfway through the meeting. It's a coaching call,
Yeah.
so I will listen, and I'm like, "Well, I won't be able to sit and take notes." So guess what? Okay.
So what?
Today, I don't take notes.
Yeah.
Now, it's a very good high-level coaching call, so
Yeah.
I'll probably listen to it again anyway and take notes. But again, that's making life work for me, and that's going to be a
Yes.
priority.
Yes. It also gives you freedom to no longer be in a should mindset. I should do this. I should do that. It's I get to, I choose to. And that is so
Stop
much more
shooting
empowering.
all over yourself.
Uh-huh. Exactly. So I love this. I know we are up against time. I am just so thankful that you took the time to be with us and to go through these things. I know I feel like you're a sister from another mother, right? Like I could talk
Yes,
to you about these things for hours.
yes.
If people want to get in touch with you, how do they do it? Say the website again.
Yep, the website is shift with Dr. Mo, DRMOE.com, or you can always just send me a message on Instagram. I reply there too.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you for your wisdom and for sharing with us. And looking forward to having you come back and teach us more.
Thank you so much.
All right. Until next time, keep being authentic, keep being real, keep searching out for what's meaningful to you. We'll see you then. Bye.